me. Help me.
Good early morning, YouTube. Ty, Metalhead Weatherman here. Hopefully you guys are doing well. So, we're going to actually be taking a look at the week ahead here. And actually a little further out than that. Because the weather, it's not necessarily quiet, but it is kind of slowing down just a little bit. But some changes are coming. As we know, there's a heat wave coming and much more lying ahead. So, make sure that you're staying updated. Best way to do that is to hit the like button. Smash that subscribe button if you're new, and if you've already subscribed, make sure you're getting that bell on. I get the feeling that some of you guys may not be getting notified of my videos, so if so, make sure you look up the name here, Ty Metalhead Weatherman, and then make sure that you have the bell on and set notifications to all. That being said, let's get into the video. So, as far as today is concerned, marginal risk has been issued. We have a marginal risk stretching from Twin Cities here towards La Crosse all the way down into the Ohio Valley, almost hooking around the Midwest as well. Some more notable cities as well that are involved here: Omaha, Lincoln, Des Moines, Kansas City, St. Louis, Evansville, Louisville, and numerous other small towns. Then over towards the northeast, we have a secondary little setup that develops here. This includes DC and Baltimore right there. We have Scranton, Binghamton, Rochester is just outside of this slight risk. Watertown, Albany, and then of course over towards Vermont. We have to keep an eye on that as well. Pretty widespread chance of thunderstorms across the country as a whole here. Looks like that monsoon setup may start to take shape in just a little bit here. Chances are low right now, but I do see some changes down the line for these guys. As far as severe weather threat is concerned today, it's mainly going to be wind and hail. Not a 0% chance of tornadoes, but less than 2% right now. It's never been zero, and this year's been a shining example of that because there have been plenty of no tour risk days, as we call them here on our end, and we've had multiple tornadoes. So take this right here with a grain of salt. We go to day 2. It's a slight risk now issued across parts of the northern plains here, particularly around South Dakota, where we have Aberdeen and Pierre involved. Northern Nebraska involved too, with Valentine, and then even a small portion of southern North Dakota. Try saying southern north 10 times fast. Anyway, also have to look at this very small little baby marginal risk area that includes just south of Philadelphia and of course Baltimore and DC once again. Again, threat is wind and hail. Tornado threat is less than 2%. It's pretty much what you would call a no tour risk day, but it's really not a no tour risk day. We'll have to see what happens with that. And then on day 3, we're looking back to the northern plains once more. This time we're expanding a little further to the north and to the south a bit, getting more so towards north central Nebraska. We have a much larger portion of South Dakota in there. We now have Aberdeen, Rapid City in there too. Then we have Grand Forks, Fargo, Bismarck, Minot, and even small parts of northwestern Minnesota involved in this slight risk. As far as the outlook, oh wow. So it was a marginal risk, but now we have a slight risk right here. It might be a glitch in the system, or they just haven't updated this yet. Because this is actually being shown more so over towards the Ohio Valley now, which I kind of find interesting. So we'll have to see what happens with that. As far as days 4 through 8 is concerned, predictability is too low on all of them still, so gotta watch each and every day here. So it's gonna be a interesting stretch here as we close out the month. It doesn't really look as a whole like the severe weather setup's gonna be quite as prominent when I look at the models, but nonetheless here we're gonna be keeping an extra close eye on things. So here's our current look right now. We have this ridge beginning to build out west. We have this very weak trough that's hanging around across the eastern half of the country. But what's going to happen over time, and this is very concerning as far as the heat is concerned, this ridge gets a lot stronger and broadens out a lot more. So we're now starting to see an increase in air temperature over here, most likely across a huge portion of the U.S. Some record temperatures are on the way for some of us too. So make sure that we are staying weather aware when it comes to the heat as well. Try to avoid being outside for extensive periods of time. That's really the best thing that you can do. And then as we continue to go down the line, we do eventually start to see far to the northeast a little bit of cooling. Nothing too significant, but this will make a difference in air temperature as time goes on. And then, of course, this trough broadens out even further as we start to get into August. This is what the Euro is looking like. We compare that to the GFS. It's a pretty similar deal here. We go out like this, and maybe we might have to watch some of the weather here in Canada in the future, because there could be an increased threat of severe weather as well. We do have a good collision of air masses there. And then as time goes on, like I said, ridge develops, widespread heat possible to likely across a good chunk of the U.S. I don't really think this spares too many people from the looks of it, unfortunately. So let's make sure we are keeping ourselves hydrated and limiting our time outside if at all possible. If you're an outdoor worker like me, then just drink as much water as you can early in the day, and of course keep electrolytes in your system. As time goes on, heat even spreads into Canada by this point, and at this point we're past Euro range here, so we need to be keeping an eye on now also, because with this ridge coming in, the wind pattern is going to change. So my concern eventually will lean more so towards the tropics, more so than severe weather, because this could lighten up the wind shear around here. And in fact, this could be an inkling of a tropical system here. I don't expect it to be too strong if this holds out, but it's something to make note of. But look what happens as time goes on as we head towards the end of this model run. And it's because it's the end of the model run why I don't have a lot of confidence this will occur. But in case it does, we could be dealing with a pretty notable storm here as we head towards the beginning to middle of August here. This is when things are expected to ramp up as far as hurricane season is concerned. My concern is if this does end up playing out, Gulf of Mexico water is very warm, and with light wind shear, we could have a recipe for some real dynamite here. So again, like I said, make sure you're hitting that like button and that subscribe button, because I'm going to be keeping track of this. But that's what we're looking at as far as the overall pattern is concerned. As far as the severe weather side of things is set up, it's not going to be super notable. We're going to be watching this trough start to dissolve here over towards the eastern half of the U.S. Waiting for the screen to load here. Sorry about that. But anyway, we're watching this trough begin to fade out and move off to the east here. See the ridge building, but it's on the flanks of those ridges on the northeastern side where you still could have a chance for severe weather. It's not going to be as notable. You're not going to see as good a chance for a severe weather outbreak. But as time goes on here, maybe towards the northern plains, I would anticipate maybe a little bit more in the way of action here, especially over towards the western high plains. We'll see what happens with that. But even then, it's questionable at best. These setups are usually really hard to keep track of as time goes on here. So we continue to go forward. We'll see that eventually the ridge starts to weaken. A new one tries to build in, but with that we'll get another trough. If this trough were to tighten up a bit, we could see increased potential for severe weather over the Ohio Valley. But right now it's still questionable at best at the moment. So here's our new ridge as we get into August here. And then eventually it looks like we might be shifting to a negative PNA as we get further along into the month of August here. Like I said, this is getting towards the end of the model run, so this is going to be questionable at best, but this also could be impacted by any sort of tropical development that would occur here. The tropical system would be more than strong enough to move off a high pressure system if it moves into the right area. More than likely what would happen here if a high pressure system did develop here would be that this tropical system would probably get steered into Texas, and then eventually we would see these two collide, and then this would get pushed off to the east here. like I said, still very far out. A lot can change. A lot typically does change. So it has to be taken with a grain of salt. So, like I said, we're going to look at the 500s again, along with the 200. But as a whole here, not a lot really to be expected here that's too different from 200. So, pretty much no surprises here. Ridge develops. Really more so towards the 500, we're looking more for storm motion or directional veering of any kind. But, like I said, towards the end of the month here, we may have to check the Ohio Valley once more. And then after that, the setup's going to be a little bit more difficult to keep up with. It's not impossible to get severe weather with a more dominant ridge compared to a trough, but it's usually a little bit harder to pick up on. Or at least it is for me sometimes. I'm still learning a lot about this weather game. Of course, like I said before, if this scenario plays out, I'll be mainly looking more so towards Louisiana and Texas for an impact at this point, if this were to occur. But, like I said, we're at the end of the model run, 16 days out. Like I said, a lot changes with this, so take this, again, with a grain of salt. So, one thing that needs to be noted the most of anything would probably have to be the temperatures, because, oh boy, this is pretty crazy what I've seen here. So as we continue to go forward here, next couple of days, it's a little bit more out of the ordinary, but wait. Look at this. 110, 105. This is stretching all the way up into Nebraska at this point. We're seeing near triple-digit temperatures all the way into South Dakota here. 110 starting to stretch into the southwest here. Starting to push a little further to the north now, too. We're even seeing the triple digits starting to get into the Sierra Nevada now. As time goes on, look what happens now. We're starting to see this getting even into North Dakota, which is nuts. This is over towards, this is getting closer and closer to Minot and Fargo. And as time goes on, it does make its way all the way into North Dakota, and then even north of the border, getting into the 90s. And before long here, as far as the model is concerned, the GFS, eventually we even see the triple digits make it north of the border. This is Saturday, August 5th right here. This is crazy. It's not impossible for this to happen, but it's crazy. Look at that, 110, 111 over here, north of the border in Canada. So hopefully any of my Canadian friends watching this, if you're north of the border here, it's about to get hot for you too. So plenty of water. And also, if you can, make sure you limit your outdoor activity. Fortunately for me, I'm probably going to have to work in this. And in Atlanta, we're not getting spared here at all. So probably could be even a couple of days where we reach 100 degrees. In fact, there is. And this is towards the 2nd. So if I happen to have any coworkers watching this, brace yourself. It's about to get hot. We haven't seen anything yet, brothers. So that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at the dew points here, because this is also going to attribute to how hot it actually ends up feeling outside. And we'll even look at the heat index in a minute here. And what we can see here clearly, by the way, keep an eye on this index right here. Once you're getting into the greens and the blues, it's pretty oppressive outside at this point. But from what we can see here, especially over the eastern half of the country, not much will change, even though the ridge has started to develop here. Excuse me. As time goes on, we will probably start to watch some decrease in dew points, but right now it doesn't seem like it's going to be it's not going to be a notable difference. We're going to probably see it drop from 70s to 60s around some parts of the southeast here at best. We do begin to see a bit more moisture coming into play now over the desert southwest here. Maybe we can finally get monsoon season on there, because I know I got someone on the team here for the streams that lives out over here. He hasn't seen rain since March, but seeing this increase in dew points is a positive sign. So we're taking a step in the right direction there. But as a whole here, as far as the rest of the country is concerned, still plenty of moisture to go around. In fact, it's even more widespread. But as far as the dry temperature, as far as the high heat, this is not a good thing. This is going to make the heat index so much more unbearable. So here's the heat indexes, and some of these values are going to make you wince a little bit. Not going to lie. So here we go, getting into later today. Heat indices are just about what they've been over the last week or so. But as time goes on, this is when it starts to kind of hurt a little bit. Heading into Wednesday, we're getting into the triple digits here, and even starting to sneak into the 110s here by late in the afternoon across the desert southwest. Towards the Corn Belt, we're getting pretty miserable out here, unfortunately. Hate to say it, but when you get these kind of heat indices, just try to avoid being outside altogether if you can. If you do have to be outside, of course, try to limit your exposure to the heat. But the triple digits, the 110s, even make it that far out to the east here. We even got Illinois getting into the mix now. Then as time goes on, this even stretches a little further off to the south and east too. So, and then look at this. This is when it's just crazy to look at right here. Look at this. This is South Dakota right here, right at the end of the month, with an 105 heat index. It's crazy. But as time goes on here, we do see this become a little bit more confined to the south, and unfortunately I see my own area in this. So, like I said, anyone who's working outside, I know I keep saying it, but I mean it. Definitely make sure that you are keeping yourself hydrated, because this is going to get dangerous. But as we continue to go forward here, heat isn't going to be going anywhere. We already knew that, but some records are going to probably be broken here. So beware. That's really the best thing I could say at this point. This is just a phrase more than anything. So as far as thunderstorm potential is concerned, over the course of the next 10 to 16 days, this is what we're looking at. We've switched back to the Euro. We're looking at lightning flash density. The higher the amount of strikes or the brighter the colors here, the more likely you are to see shower and thunderstorm activity. So over here today, over towards the Midwest, pretty high probability of activity by noon, and then pretty widespread across the country at several different points. This doesn't guarantee that you'll mean thunderstorms, but the probability of thunderstorms increases with the flash density probability going up, or the flashes per day going up. As we get towards Wednesday, great deal of focus over towards the northern plains. So no surprises there. As we continue to go on, eventually the Ohio Valley becomes a point of interest. And really this is going to be the main points of interest, but also, one thing I want to note, look what happens as we continue to go onward. I'm going to go back really quick, and then you can see that there's actually an increasing chance of shower and storm activity over towards the southwest here, particularly towards Arizona. Kyle, that's good news for you. But as time goes on, that only increases over these areas, and then over towards the mid-Atlantic, pretty good shot at thunderstorms too. Could be another potential severe setup taking shape over towards the western high plains. As of right now, I wouldn't be too concerned as far as its significance is concerned, but the increase of shower and thunderstorm activity is a good indicator right there. As we continue to go forward into August, a lot more activity towards the central plains. A little bit more dry out to the east right now. So, like I said, some big changes seem like they're on the way here. So it's going to be interesting to see how things develop with that, especially once that ridge begins to kick in. So last but not least, we're going to go ahead and run this loop real quick. Going to have this just go forward at this speed. So we, of course, head through the week. It's pretty much just going to verify with what we were seeing on the Euro here as far as shower and thunderstorm activity. Main hotspots being towards the Ohio Valley and the northern plains. Western plains does get more action. Southwest gets more active over time. towards the southeast, we do have that little run there where we have that storm developing, and it becomes a pretty strong, like really strong tropical system if this were to play out. Like I said, it's at the end of the model run. Confidence isn't very high on this, but we'll be keeping an eye on that. We'll probably do a tropical outlook this evening, and then additional content will be coming later on this week for the Weather Nerd 101 playlist, which is something I haven't been able to tend to much lately. So, interesting stuff, a lot of exciting stuff getting ready to happen on the channel, so stay tuned. That's all I can really say at this point. But for now, this has been Ty Metalhead Weatherman. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Of course, you already know what to do. And then, of course, I'll see you guys later this afternoon. Until then, have an awesome day and have a good morning.